All right, you know what it is, you know who it is, we're back. Today, we're talking about the top 5 jiu-jitsu exercises that you're not doing. Let's check it out. So starting at number 5, we got the heavy sled pulls. This can be a prowler, this can be a sled, this can be just pulling whatever it is that you have, a heavy kettlebell or whatever it might be. Heavy pulls are going to be one of the most efficient ways that we can train strength of the legs, so just pure absolute strength, and then strength endurance, right? Because we can do this a couple ways. We can work on time, meaning we can just pull the sled for a specific amount of time, whether that's 5 to 10 minutes, or we can start to load that thing up and go for a short distance. We can go for a specific amount of steps, but this gives us a very good way where we can start to push the strength adaptation, but take out all the limiters that might usually affect us within the squat or the deadlift, or even something like a lunge pattern. So the heavy pull is the biggest reason why I'm in this area, and I like to do this exercise, and I think you should do it. Number 4, we have heavy carries. Now, I'm gonna specifically talk about the slam ball. I know there's farmer carries, I know there's, farmer's logs and things like that, but I wanna talk about the slam ball because I think it translates best to jiu-jitsu. Now, when we're talking about the slam ball, I'm talking about something heavy relative to you, but with us, minimum 100 pounds for guys, probably looking at like 60 to 80 pounds for women. But the reason I like the slam ball is it translates well to a human when you're hugging them because you can squeeze it, and we can start to work on grips, right? When you're doing the farmer's carry, when you're doing that stuff, that isolates the grips and they're great. But in terms of like what we're not doing, taking a slam ball and working on these different grips, working on these different positions, because if you train in the gi, I don't, try not to, I do, but not too often. When you train in the gi, it's a lot about grips, and no gi, it's a lot of these switching in these grips, whether it's gable grips, S grips, seat belt, whatever it is. Being very good and translating that from, let's say a slam ball into a human makes more sense, and it works on all these different areas as opposed to, taking just dumbbells and just walking with them, right? We want to try to create a translation from in the gym onto the mat and working on those specific patterns. Face pulls. So, face pulls are probably one of my favorite things and something I do at least 2 to 3 times a week. Now, we can either use cables or bands, but what we're really starting to work on here is this external rotation, or getting ourselves from this protracted position of the shoulder, retracting and depressing, and getting this position stronger, because one of the main things that I see is people who struggle in jiu-jitsu, whether it's getting tapped by Kimuras or Americanas, is shoulder mobility, right? You start to see these guys who can't raise their arms past here, they can't really work, they don't have control of their internal external rotation, then they wonder why they tap and when they get Kimura or Americana. Obviously you're going against someone good, it's going to be hard to control, but the better we can be at this external rotation and internal rotation of the shoulder, the better we're going to be able to defend this and have more time to get out of them, right? So the face pulls, we can start with just basic face pull where we're just protracting, retracting, and then we can start to work our way up to these high face pulls where we start to work a little bit more through depression and elevation of the shoulder as well. So face pulls, looking at high reps here. Don't worry so much about the weight because in these positions it's a little bit tougher and these are smaller muscles, so we're really working on endurance, being able to continuously maintain those positions, and then just something challenging enough that you can start to feel the burn after 15 reps. Number 2, seal row. Seal row is one of my favorite pulling exercises, and I think for jiu-jitsu, we need to be pulling as much as possible. We need to have a strong posterior chain, especially in our upper body, and finding ways to overload that. And the seal row is my favorite vertically, right? So this vertical are going to be our strongest position. And if you start to look at the seal row and then you translate that into jiu-jitsu, this pulling position here is going to be very common. So the better we can do at overloading that, working on those ranges of motion, just like I said with the face pulse, working on protraction and retraction, and developing that controlled flexion extension of the spine, that's going to translate to a better ground game, whether you're on your back, whether you're on top. This is just going to translate to more control within the match because you're able to work on that grip. And like I said, grip is going to be the biggest thing in jiu-jitsu that's going to translate to success or defeat within your match. Number 1, we got the Hatfield squats and its variations. Now this is probably number 1 on my list for a couple of reasons. 1, there's a ton of variations that we can get with the Hatfield squat. Number 2, like I said, kind of with the heavy sled pulls, we want to find ways that we can isolate, whether that's the lower body or the upper body, whatever it is, without limitations, right? And we want to create true strength adaptation. And to create true strength adaptation, we have to take the muscle to failure. And a lot of the times in training, outside of jiu-jitsu, I'm talking about general training, we never actually reach a point of true muscle failure, which lacks our ability to reach true absolute strength. So this is a way that I found in terms of isolating the legs themselves, and then giving ourselves an opportunity to use pins to support ourselves and get that weight up and down, that we're able to overload the legs and really start to isolate the glutes, the hamstrings, the quads. We're working unilaterally, so we're working on that flexion extension of the hip. And there's a couple ways we can do this. We can do an in-place split squat, we can do a reverse lunge, then we can start to add deficits and other aspects to it with overloading weight. But we're going to need a safety bar for this, to do this. So if you guys don't have a safety bar, we can do this a couple different ways. We can hold some dumbbells, it's kind of the same idea, but with the safety bar on top, we can really start to overload and use this to, like I said, reach true absolute strength. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. These are the top 5 exercises for jiu-jitsu that you're not doing. If you guys have any questions, always can reach out to me, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.